Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the solar eclipse. It's on September 21. It's at 29 degrees of Virgo. Now, 29 is a critical degree, and this is a harvest eclipse, so that makes it particularly intense. So let's talk about it. So this eclipse and the eclipse we had earlier in September are the exact same eclipses that we had in September 2006. So think back to 2006, what was going on? What were the obstacles and challenges? What were the opportunities that were happening? Because those are things that could be happening again this time. And by the way, I do readings so we can look at your chart and look at specifically what's ahead for you. There's a link in the description. So, of course, eclipses bring big change, and that affects the world. And the theme of the eclipse, which is based on the sign of the eclipse, and in this case, the degree of the eclipse, can give us a lot of information about things that could go on in the world. Now, a lot of these things are happening already. They are just reaching a very noticeable and critical stage. But what's more important is that we can derive information for our own lives from what's going on with this eclipse and in the world. So a Virgo eclipse is always about health and well-being. And so during this time, we may see some big news stories about what is going on in the world when it comes to health, disease, infections, just general well-being of people. And what we need to think about for ourselves is, how are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of our bodies? Because this 29-degree eclipse says that if there are things that you know you need to be doing and you're not doing them, now is the time to start, because the energy here is really loud. It's like a megaphone saying, take care of yourself. A Virgo eclipse is about agriculture and the food supply, and so oftentimes with the Virgo eclipse, we are going to see rising food costs or even shortages. And again, you may have already been experiencing some of this, but this is also that now it becomes more extreme. Now it becomes more noticeable. And the message for us as individuals is, how can we become more self-sufficient? Now, in a society, it's very hard to be 100% self-sufficient, but we can learn to cook at home, keep a well-stocked pantry, to connect with local restaurant owners or local farmers and support what they're doing in our communities. A Virgo eclipse also talks about the people in general, the condition of the population, and so that can lead to some, expressing and civil unrest, and we are seeing that again already. And so it's very important to express our opinions and to be out in the world saying our truth. But this is also a reminder that in our own lives, we need to look at what's not working and make some changes to figure out, what we're doing that is something that we would normally rebel against. And so then we say to ourselves, okay, this is something that has to change. Also, a Virgo eclipse is about how large companies and the government itself just works on a daily basis. And so it's quite likely that we're going to hear a lot more about jobs, how many jobs are being created, or how few are being created, layoffs and things like that. And so that reminds us, that bigger picture reminds us to take a look at how we're doing our daily lives and what we need to subtract from our daily lives, what we need to add to our daily lives to make it better, to put ourselves more on the path that we want to be on. And that might involve, meditation or journaling. That might involve getting into the community, meeting your neighbors, and connecting with people. Now, this eclipse affects those people who are born between the 14th of the month and the 27th of the month. I'm going to put the specific dates on the screen, and that means that your sun is getting hit by this eclipse. Now, of course, a conjunction, a square, or an opposition would be the strongest hit, but even a semi-sextile is going to affect you. And so this hit to your sun means that some aspect of your identity is shifting. That is that you are deciding to leave an old part of you behind and embrace something new. Additionally, it's very important to check the planets and as well as a couple of important points, and that would be the ascendant and the midheaven. Those in particular could affect your job, your living arrangement, your relationship. And so look for any planets or points that are between 25 degrees and 29 degrees, or between 0 and 4 degrees. All of those indicate a hit. Of course, personal planets and the moon are going to be a stronger hit. Some of the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are going to be more generational, so people around your age will be experiencing a similar thing. And I also wanted to mention that if you have anything at early Libra, so that's 0 from 4 degrees, that's actually a conjunction with that eclipse, with this eclipse at 29 Virgo. So that's often missed because of the change of signs, but this is a very potent hit. Now, eclipses allow us an opportunity to see our situation very honestly and make some changes. And this can be something you're quite conscious of, that you've been saying to yourself, I need to change this, or you're already in motion towards it. It also can bring a kind of, oh, the emperor has no clothes type of experience where we say, I didn't realize that I've been fooling myself. I didn't realize that I was not paying attention to this as much as I was. And so then it's time to get real. And so either of those things can help us move forward. Okay, Virgo, this is your eclipse. And even if it's out of orb of your planets, you're still quite affected by this energy. And this energy is very much about putting you and almost pushing you into the front row, pushing you in onto the stage, pushing you forward. Now, it's quite likely that over the last few months you've been feeling this anyway. As we have been approaching this energy, it's likely that you've had some opportunities maybe that have come up, like perhaps a leadership opportunity or an opportunity to express yourself. And you may have felt this real desire to change, like your look, how you approach people, whether you see more people in person, whether you've decided that you're going to do all of your sessions or connections by phone or something. Like something's shifting in how you deal with people, but also how you're presenting yourself to the world. Now, if you haven't started to make those changes, the desire to change now could be overwhelming. And because you're doing that opposition to Saturn, it can feel like not everybody in your life is on board with this. And it may be necessary to kind of sidestep some objections and things like that, not to try to convince the person that this is a good idea, but to say, I'm just going to try this, or I'm only going to do this little bit of it just so that you can get some momentum going and maybe don't have to feel like it's a battle. Now, of course, the ideal situation is that you embrace this idea that you are the authority of your life and that you can make these good decisions creating with the universe and other people. And so that energy is you coming together and negotiating for what you want and allowing them to say what they want and finding that win-win. That is all quite possible with this energy. But the energy also is fairly big here, and so that can lead to something new in your job, maybe a new supervisor, maybe a new job itself. This could be that you take your business in a different direction. This can also affect your home, and so that is where you live, changing the residence itself, or renovating, or doing something different with who you live with. And this can also affect relationships. And so if you have already been thinking about maybe leaving a relationship, an eclipse oftentimes provides the doorway for that. Or this could be where you decide to commit to a relationship, and that will open new doors for you as well. And a way that you can uncover more information about this eclipse is through an astrology reading. Astrology readings are very helpful. They give you information about yourself, they can uncover your hidden talents and abilities, and they can also give you a view of what's ahead. So I do readings. There's a link in the description. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you have very strong relationship energy going on right now. And so you can meet someone, but you need to be focused on what you're giving, what you're receiving, finding some sort of balance in all of that so that you don't end up sacrificing some part of you or your time or your energy and getting very little in return. In this chart, your planet ruler is doing a grand trine with Uranus and Pluto, which means that you have lots of options. The problem with the grand trine is sometimes it's too easy and too obvious and we don't push forward. So this is that a small push can give you lots of momentum in the direction you want to go. But because it's so easy and comfortable, we don't push. So if you want to meet someone for a love relationship, stepping out the door, going to some social events and things like that could be very good. It could really lead to something. Now, I do want to do that one caveat that I talked about in the lunar eclipse, and that is meeting someone during a solar eclipse is going to bring an intense relationship, especially with an eclipse that is this potent. So it's necessary to think that through. So if you meet someone, you may want to put off your first date for a week or two so that you can get clear of this eclipse energy. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an opposition with Neptune, so you have a very nice opportunity to have a shared vision together of what it is you want for the future, or how you want to make the house, or what you see for your daughter's wedding, or any of those things, any of those big things. You and your partner can come together, get on the same page, and have a similar idea. Now, you may be in charge of different parts of this, or they may be very concerned with the money and you're concerned with the logistics or something like that, but you can have a similar vision, and when you do, then you work together, you're in harmony. Now, when it comes to your money, you can pull money from Venus, which is now in the sign of Virgo. And so that is your opportunity to connect with others so that you can make more money. And the more connections you make, the more new people you meet, the more money you can make. So this means every single person that you meet could open a door for you for a job or a business opportunity, or they have some investment advice, or they give you an idea, some inspiration, maybe something to do with crafts, or any of these things could just launch you into something else. So this is really a good time to connect with others. Now, when it comes to money derived from business or from your investments, Venus is making an out-of-sign sextile with Mars, which indicates you have a strong possibility of making more money over the next 2 weeks, but it comes from things that are a little bit unexpected. So that would be maybe a one-time gift, or that one of your investments pops up unexpectedly and then you take some profits, or you get an out-of-the-blue sale for something you don't normally sell. So something is a little bit unusual, but once you realize what the opportunity is, if you move forward on it actively, you can maximize your gains. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and so that would be a paycheck, what we're seeing is that the moon is making a semi-sextile to Venus. And the way things are lined up, you have a little bit of luck here, but what's needed is to have a stronger connection with the people who make those sort of decisions. And so finding a way to talk with them more, to have more of an understanding of what they're going through. What are the blocks to giving you a raise? What are they looking for? And if you say, "Oh, Donna, I could not because my boss is, this and this and this," then basically the universe is saying, then this is possibly not the right place for you. And so it would be good to use this eclipse energy to make some bigger change. So if you were given the chance to completely change one part of your life, what would it be? Take a moment and think about this, because oftentimes that answer will tell you where the eclipse is falling in your chart. And so when we have an eclipse, especially an eclipse that affects the sun in the chart, what gets affected is how you describe yourself to yourself and to others. Then, just less than a month later, Venus opposes the eclipse degree, and that happens on October 1st. And that's going to be some sort of maybe announcement about commerce, about prices, about goods, because Venus rules the Taurus energy, which is the stuff that we want to have. Now, probably the 410 hit is considered one of the most stressful because it is about home and career. And of course, you can mitigate a lot of this energy by leaning in and making as many changes as you can in those areas.